revealed how an incredible maid brought back the smiles of a billionaire's twin girls in 30 days. Tom Harrington stood on the balcony of his sprawling mansion, staring out at the neatly trimmed lawns of Maple Valley. The streets bustled with laughter and joy, but inside his home, silence reigned supreme. 2 weeks had passed since he had reluctantly hired Maria, a maid from a humble background, but the emptiness still clawed at him. His beautiful twins, Lily and Rose, drifted through the house like ghosts, lost in their own sorrow, a shadow of their former selves. Every morning, he put on a brave face, slipping into his tailored suits. Yet beneath the polished exterior lay a heart in peril, shattered by the loss of his beloved wife. He hoped that Maria, with her energy and enthusiasm, would spark some joy into the cold, unwelcoming corners of their lives. But instead, he felt more isolated than ever, swallowed by a world that now felt foreign and hollowed out. On her first day, Maria stepped into the ornate kitchen, eyes sparkling with hope. As she prepped a family-style meal, the tantalizing aroma of her traditional dishes filled the air. The twins lingered at the edge, drawn in by the familiarity of scents they hadn't experienced since their mother passed. When Maria turned to them with a warm smile and inviting gestures, the girls exchanged timid glances, cautiously inching closer. "Would you like to help?" Maria asked, her voice a gentle nudge. Slowly, they approached, memories flickering in their minds like unwelcome shadows. It felt strange, yet somehow comforting. Just as the evening began to unfold with clattering game pieces and soft laughter, Tom entered, the cords of joy wrapping around him like an unexpected embrace. His heart tugged. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." "Now let's continue." Their laughter echoed through the house, shattering the weight of grief, if only just for a fleeting moment. But Tom felt a heat of anger flare up before he even understood why. How dare she step into that role? Does she think she can just replace their mother? But as he watched Maria attempting to connect with his daughters, he caught a glimpse of what they had been missing: joy. Yet, in the days that followed, prejudice crept into delicate moments. Tom's wealthy acquaintances began to murmur about Maria, her origins causing ripples of tension in the opulent world he inhabited. They didn't understand, couldn't see beyond the gilded walls of his wealth. But Tom found himself confronted with a choice and internal struggle between upholding his social stature and embracing a connection that felt real. As the autumn leaves danced outside, turning gold and crimson, Tom's heart grew heavier. Could he abide by the whispers that echoed with judgment, or could he step into the warmth that Maria offered, an unlikely alliance for a broken family? The choice loomed over him like a storm cloud, darkening his thoughts. In a town where class divisions were stark, could they break the chains of social prejudice and allow happiness to flow through their fractured lives? Would Tom dare to perceive love rising in the most unexpected spaces? As he stood there, engulfed in uncertainty, the question hung in the air: were they ready to embrace the possibility of connection, or would fear drive them apart forever? Tom stood at the edge of the balcony, watching as the bright hues of autumn swirled around him. The laughter of his girls echoed in his ears, a sound he hadn't heard in ages, and yet it was marred by the gnawing fear that lingered within him. Should he allow this new, warm presence into their lives? He felt his stomach twist at the thought. Downstairs, Maria was cooking again. Today, she had decided to prepare a special dish from her homeland, one she said would fill the home with warmth just like it did when she was a child. The smell drifted up, weaving through the still air and reaching him like a whisper of hope. But he shook his head. Could they really do this? Could he afford to let them bond with someone who wasn't part of their world? In the girls' room, Lily and Rose exchanged excited glances as they set the table, careful to place Maria's carefully arranged delicacies with tenderness. They whispered secrets and giggled, faces lighting up in a way Tom hadn't seen in so long. It tugged at his heartstrings, Should he disrupt this fragile joy? The moment he stepped into the kitchen, the laughter halted. 3 sets of eyes turned to him, 2 wide and innocent, the other filled with uncertainty. He forced a smile. "How's it going?" "Almost ready, Mr. Harrington," Maria chimed in, her voice rich and welcoming. He returned her greeting with a nod, but couldn't he shake off the turmoil inside. Dinner began with careful pleasantries. As they shared the meal, each bite held an unspoken promise, a potential bond forming in the air. The girls practically glowed with happiness, every morsel of food bringing back the sparkle in their eyes. Tom watched their joy, feeling it flare and collapse in his chest with every laugh shared. But then the murmur of his distant friends seeped back into his thoughts. They would want to know who she was, why she was in their home, and he knew it would only lead to trouble. After dinner, Maria cleared the table, humming a tune from her childhood. Her voice resonated in the compartmentalized corners of his heart. "I cleaned your daughter's art corner today," she said brightly. "I thought they might like to do some painting tomorrow." Tom clenched his jaw and breathed through the rising tide of confusion and anger. She was treading on sacred ground, tempting the girls with memories of their mother. Would she take them from him, too? Just as he prepared to voice his concerns, Lily's shout cut through his thoughts. "Daddy, can we? Please?" The spark in her eyes was undeniable. Tom felt a rush wash over him, confusion retaliated by hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find joy here again. But the questions lingered. Later that night, as Tom lay awake, he tried to sort through the cacophony of his heart. His mind raced with memories of his wife, the joy they shared. Could he trust this unassuming woman to foster that fire again? The storm within him grew, uncertainty crashing against wisps of burgeoning hope. As dawn approached, the first rays of light broke through the horizon, illuminating the room. Tom's heart thudded against his chest. If change was possible, what would that look like? There was still a long path ahead, rife with challenges and judgment. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something stir inside him, an unwillingness to give up. He was tired of the shadows. What if opening their hearts to Maria meant redefining their family? Tom inhaled slowly, feeling the chains of his past loosen. The morning sun warmed his face. Perhaps he could let go of fear and take a step towards something new. But just as he resolved to invite Maria into their lives more fully, a text pinged on his phone. Glancing at the screen, his heart sank. It was a message from an old friend, and it read, "We need to talk about the MAID." What could they possibly want now? Tom stared at his phone, disbelief coursing through him. His mind raced with what could possibly unfold next. About the MAID? He muttered to himself, feeling the weight of the words like an anchor in the pit of his stomach. He remembered the old gang, friends who had stood by him through thick and thin but now felt like distant ghosts of a life he once knew. What could they want from him when all he sought was to rebuild his little family, brick by fragile brick? Slipping out of bed, he tiptoed down the hallway to get a better look at the girls. They were still sleeping, cheeks soft, eyes closed, the faintest hint of their dreams playing across their lips as they murmured in slumber. How could he risk everything when their happiness had just begun to bloom again? He couldn't shake the doubt lingering over him. Should he block the number? Ignore the text? Much as he craved the comfort of the familiar, the nagging fear that his choices could lead to disruption haunted him. With a shaky breath, he returned to his room and stared out the window, watching the sun rise over the neighborhood. The world seemed brighter, but it couldn't pierce the shadows of his worries. By mid-morning, the aroma of breakfast wafted up from the kitchen, curling around his thoughts. The sound of laughter intermingled with the clattering of dishes reached his ears, making it harder to stay locked within his stress. He took a deep breath and moved toward the cheerful chaos. As he entered the kitchen, Maria stood at the stove, stirring a pot of oatmeal while Lily and Rose busied themselves making fruit smoothies with oversized, colorful straws. The sight filled him with warmth but irked him all at once. Was this home? Could he really let her stay? "Morning," Maria beamed, glancing back at him. Her smile seemed genuine, secure. The girls clapped their hands together and begged Tom to join them at the counter. Rather than the chaos of the storm brewing within, he felt a small bullet of warmth ricochet off his heart, only for fear to quickly snuff it out again. "Come help us! We need you!" Rose called out, her cheeks flushed with excitement and the smoothie splattering slightly on her chin. How could he deny such joy? With a reluctant step forward, Tom found himself gravitating towards the girls, who bubbled with energy and life. He squeezed in between them, allowing the moment to wash over him. They chatted about colors and flavors while Tom fumbled with the blender, the hum providing a steady rhythm to their laughter. As they shared breakfast, his thoughts cycled back to the text reminding him of the past. Meanwhile, the atmosphere felt like a fresh chance he never thought possible. But then, the chime of his phone startled him, drawing him away from the light that had dared to ignite in the room. He glanced at the screen. It was Maria, beaming with pride over the colorful bowls they'd created together, sending a picture of their breakfast spread. In that moment it hit him. They were smiling genuinely, and for the first time in so long, he was, too. But just as he set his phone down, Lily brought up Maria's plans for the painting. "Can we go to the park later?" she asked, eyes wide and innocent. "We can paint outside." Tom hesitated. The park was a place of their mother's laughter, a place of memories. Suddenly, those memories felt heavier, overshadowed by the nagging fear of losing what little they had rebuilt. "Maybe," he said slowly. "We'll see how the day goes." But now the choice weighed on him. Could a simple trip to the park rekindle past pain, or could it forge a new bond? As Maria returned to the kitchen, the harmony of the moment caught at Tom's throat, pushing against the blockade of doubt that threatened to suffocate him. Maybe, just maybe, he could step forward, and it wouldn't mean leaving everything behind. Yet then, another text flashed on his screen. It was from a different number, and it simply read, "You need to hear this, Tom." What did he need to hear? Tom felt a chill creep down his spine as he read the message. The words hung heavy in the air, thick with implication. Curiosity battled with dread. What did he need to hear? The knot in his stomach tightened as he thought back to the life he was trying so hard to rebuild. Could this stranger really have something that would shake it all apart again? He shook his head, trying to rid himself of the ominous thoughts. The kitchen was filled with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the confusion gnawing at him. He needed to focus on the moment, the girls, and the life they were starting to create together without shadows from the past intruding. "Tom! Watch this!" Rose giggled, raising her smoothie-filled cup in a cheer. The echo of her joy cut through his chaos. He turned his attention back to her, forcing a smile, even if it felt a touch brittle. "All right, I'm watching," he said, ready to embrace the simple joy of their playful antics. As laughter bubbled up again, he noticed Maria stealing glances at him, her gaze full of understanding. It was as if she sensed the storm brewing inside him. Did she know about the texts? The past? "Everything okay?" she asked gently as she stirred the oatmeal. "Just thinking about some stuff," he replied, unsure how to share the tension mount inside. "Good thoughts, I hope," she said, her smile fading a little. Tom cared more for their peace than his past on that sunny morning. But the phone buzzed in his pocket again, a persistent reminder that he was being pulled in two directions. The girls needed him in the now, yet his old life was inching back with every notification. 1, 2, 3, cheers! The girls shouted, and he felt himself lift for a moment. Their laughter filled the room, bridged a gap he didn't think would heal. But images of his old friends flooded back, their faces twisted with need from their own struggles, and he wrestled with a gnawing uncertainty. "Can we go to the park? Please?" Lily piped up again, bright eyes pleading. Their mother used to take them there often, her laughter echoing, filling the air with joy. But what did it mean for him? "Okay," he agreed hesitantly, surprise flooding his heart. "Just a quick trip." "Yes." They squealed, erupting into a chorus of happiness. Tom felt his heart swell, but the weight of his choice pressed on him. Was he making the right decision? And would the past stay buried, or reemerge like an unwelcome ghost? As they cleaned up, Tom grabbed his phone, contemplating the new message again. What could possibly be so important? He began to type a response, an instinctual response lined with a latent fear. But just then, the doorbell rang, breaking through the moment. Who could that be? Maria asked, frowning slightly, her expression mirroring his own confusion. I'll get it, he said, hoping for just a few moments of clarity. But when he opened the door, his breath caught in his throat. There stood Casey, a ghost from his past, his old friend, looking a little worse for wear, but undeniably present. Tom, I need to talk to you. It's about everything, especially the girls, Casey said, eyes serious. The world spun slightly around Tom, the laughter fading into a haunting silence. The choices before him seemed to weave tighter, pulling him back toward old wounds he had just begun to stitch closed. What now? He thought, his heart racing. This was not the reunion he had hoped for, and the choices ahead felt more tangled than ever. How could he face the truth that Casey brought with him? Would he risk the newly formed bond he cherished to step once more into the old, chaotic world? Let us talk, Tom finally said, heart pounding. As he motioned Casey inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was coming, it was going to change everything. What could he possibly learn from a past that was supposed to stay buried? As they stepped into the house together, light and shadows collided like a fierce storm on the horizon. The air hung heavy, a tension unmistakable between Tom and Casey. As the door clicked shut, the laughter of the girls faded into the background, the lightness of their morning evaporating like mist in the sun. Tom's heart raced. What did Casey want? The words, so often bantered between old friends, felt lost now, replaced by the gravity of the moment. Tom, Casey began, running a hand through his unkempt hair. I know this is unexpected, but it's important. Tom gestured to the living room, a small attempt to provide some semblance of normalcy. Have a seat, he offered, though the invitation felt hollow given the uncertainty swirling around them. As Casey sank into the couch, Tom stood by the window, half-turned. He could see the girls through the glass, their giggles mingling sweetly with the wind. He couldn't afford to let the past intrude on their peace. But there was a voice nagging in his mind, reminding him that avoidance wouldn't erase what was real. Look, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't serious, Casey pressed. It's about the girls. I've been keeping tabs on what's happening since you know. His voice trailed off, likely recalling the chaos that had once consumed their interactions. What do you mean, tabs? Tom shot back, irritation curling his words. This isn't your life anymore, Casey. You chose to step away. I know. But I've seen things that you might not be aware of. Some people from our past, they've been asking about you and the girls. They want to what? Tom interrupted, the anger bubbling at the surface. You don't know what it cost me to get here. To build a life for them without interference from our old lives. I thought we buried that. I thought we did too. Until I got a message the other day. About you. About them. Tom's chest tightened. The very mention of a message reignited the tumultuous feelings from earlier that morning. What message? Someone wants to talk. They claim they've got information. Information that could help you, help the girls. But there's a price. A wave of dread washed over Tom. Help? At what cost? The last time we saw that kind of help, it left nothing but ruin. I get it, I do. But if there's even a chance this could protect them, we have to consider it. You may have turned your back on that world, but it hasn't turned its back on you. Tom felt the walls closing in. The safe haven he had crafted felt like it was crumbling with each passing second. He thought of Lily and Rose, blissfully unaware, playing under the sun. Could bringing back shadows from the past ultimately do more harm than good? As silence swelled between them, Tom's pulse quickened. No. I can't go back, Casey. Not after everything. Not for them. Yet as the words left his lips, doubt crept in. What if he was pushing away a lifeline? What if the very chaos he had worked so hard to escape was actually creeping closer, like an unwanted visitor at the door? I just want what's best for you, for your girls, Casey said quietly, sensing Tom's hesitation. Tom moved toward the kitchen as if to escape the mounting tension. He poured another glass of water, hands trembling slightly. The bubbling conversations of the girls, bright and innocent, rang in his ears. How do I protect them? He whispered to himself. By facing this, Casey said, and Tom could feel the weight of his friend's stare. You need to decide whether the past is worth revisiting if it has the potential to shield them. What was left unsaid thickened the air. Tom stared blankly at the wall, thoughts swirling like leaves in a tempest. Could he truly bear to put them through that risk? As guilt knotted in his chest, he realized he had come to a crossroads with no clear signpost. Just give me time to think, he finally replied, the resolve in his voice faltering. We'll talk later. As Casey left, Tom's mind raced. He needed answers, and soon. The past was no longer just a distant echo. It was a living figure waiting in the shadows, and the gnawing sensation in his gut told him that time was running out before the answers found him first. Would facing the past bring him peace or plunge them all into an even darker storm? The decision loomed over him, heavy and daunting. He needed to protect the girls, but at what cost to himself? As evening's shadows grew long in the fading light, Tom could only wonder what consequences awaited him if he chose to step back into a world he thought he had left behind. Would he truly have the strength to fight back against the ghosts that threatened their happiness? With the soft glow of evening filtering through the window, Tom leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. He could hear Lily and Rose giggling in the other room, blissfully engrossed in their playtime. The memories of laughter felt like a protective shield around them, but Casey's words seemed to gnaw at the edges of that safety. He poured himself another glass of water, but his mind was elsewhere. Every swallow felt heavy, like swallowing stones. How could he even begin to explain to the girls why their father might be making choices that could put them at risk? They were so young, so innocent. Tom tried to drown out the noise of worry, focusing instead on the girls. He wandered into the living room, where they sat surrounded by stuffed animals, their treasure trove of stories spilling out as they formed castles and kingdoms. He couldn't help but smile, even as his heart raced. Hey, princesses! He called, attempting to inject some lightness into the air. Both girls glanced up, their faces lighting up with pure delight. Daddy! They giggled in unison, their little voices lifting his spirits like a sunbeam after rain. I can be your brave knight if you need one, he said, mimicking an exaggerated sword-fighting stance, and they squealed with laughter. As Tom joined their makeshift kingdom on the floor, he pushed Casey's words aside, if only for a moment. The playtime was fleeting. How long could he maintain this facade of peace? He ruffled Lily's hair and tapped Rose's nose, each laugh a brief reprieve from the looming storm. Yet he felt the shadows creeping closer, threatening to disrupt this newfound normal. After dinner, while tucking the girls into bed, Tom's heart thudded heavily. He read to them, his fingers trembling as he turned the pages of their favorite story, but his mind wandered in circles. Should he reach out to Casey? Should they go back to that world? Would doing nothing invite disaster? Daddy? Lily's small voice pulled him from his thoughts. Her big blue eyes sparkled with innocence. You're not sad, are you? No, sweetheart. Just thinking, he replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. Don't think too hard. It makes your forehead crinkle, Rose chimed in, furrowing her brow comically. Their laughter filled the room, a treasured sound he wanted to preserve forever. He kissed them both gently, holding their warmth close for a moment longer. Once the door clicked shut behind him, he was enveloped by silence. The weight of responsibility settled in again. Tom stared at the framed photos on the wall, the three of them in a park, their smiles bright and carefree. Those pictures seemed like a promise he had made to them, a vow to keep them safe not just from their past, but from the turbulent waters he'd once navigated. As he picked up his phone to check the time, a message notification flashed on the screen. It was from Casey, a single line that sent chills down his spine. We need to talk. Tonight. An icy knot twisted in his stomach. Time had run out. This wasn't just a conversation, it was now or never. He could feel his pulse quicken as conflicting emotions surged: fear, hope, anger, regret. What would he say? How would he protect his girls? Tom inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. He had built this life brick by brick, fighting back the storms at every turn. Could facing the past bring him the answers he desperately needed? Or would it unravel everything he had fought for? He glanced back at the closed door, imagining the innocence behind it. In that moment, he realized he had a choice to make a leap of faith or a step away from the only path he had ever known. With trembling hands, he took a deep breath. "Here we go," he murmured to himself as he hit reply. But did he even know what he was stepping into? The past was alive again, pulsating with unanswered questions. And Tom had to wonder, would he find answers or only more chaos when he confronted the darkness lurking from beyond? Tom stood in the kitchen, the phone still buzzing in his hand. A shower of emotions swept over him, compressing his chest until he could barely breathe. He was all too aware that each moment spent hesitating could cost him the fragile happiness he had forged for his daughters. With a decisive swipe, he opened the message. "Meet me at the park in an hour. Alone." The words felt like icy fingers creeping along his spine, tugging him back to a time he longed to forget. But he had promised to protect Lily and Rose, and that meant facing whatever storm Casey had brought back into his life. He glanced at the clock, the ticking sound echoing ominously in his thoughts. He knew the park well, a spot filled with memories, carrying the laughter of children that danced on the summer breeze. It was where he and Casey had shared dreams, plans, and too often regrets. The girls were still sleeping, blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing outside their door. For a moment, Tom considered waking them, pulling them into an embrace, feeling their warmth against him. He shook his head, pushing the impulse away. This was a conversation that needed to happen without their innocent hearts at risk. In the car, the engine roared to life, cutting through the silence. The city whizzed past, each blinking light a reminder of how quickly things could change. He parked at the edge of the park, a few spaces away from the swings that now stood still, swaying gently in the wind. The laughter of other children floated on the air, a haunting melody of a life he yearned to hold on to. He spotted Casey near the old oak tree, her figure blurred in the twilight. She looked the same yet different, a reflection of the girl he had known, layered with cracks and shadows from a life he had tried to escape. His heart raced as he approached, memories flooding back, shared dreams tarnished by disappointment. "Tom," she began, her voice shaky, uncertainty in her eyes. "Why now, Casey?" He shot back, surprised by his own harshness. "You've had years." "I know, but it's complicated," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought we were done. I thought I could leave it all behind," until her words stumbled, catching in her throat. "Until what?" Tom pressed, unable to keep the anger out of his tone. "This isn't about you anymore. It's about the girls." A heaviness settled between them, filled with unspoken regrets and fears. Casey's eyes darted away, tracing the ground as if it held the answers to the questions they both avoided. "They're in danger, Tom," she finally said, her tone shifting. "Because of our past. Someone is looking for me and for you." His heart dropped. The weight of her words felt like a physical blow. Every moment he'd fought for their peace, now threatened by shadows he thought he'd escaped. "What do you mean?" "Who?" "I can't explain everything right now. I just know. I need your help. We're all in this together. Can you trust me?" The world around him faded, and like a dam bursting, emotions flooded back. The anger, fear, and pain pulled together, overshadowed by an alarming sense of urgency. Tom felt a storm of questions crash over him. Could he trust her? Should he let her back into their lives? Yet standing here, with Casey vulnerable before him, he realized he couldn't let fear dictate his next move. The safety of his daughters was on the line, and the stakes had never been higher. "All right," he finally said, forcing his voice to steady, "but we need to get the girls somewhere safe first." As they walked together, the shadows of the past loomed closer, and Tom felt an unsettling knot in his stomach. Would this choice lead them to safety, or deeper into chaos? The darkness was closing in once again, and he knew they were only at the beginning of a battle either of them had wanted. What consequences lay ahead was something neither of them could predict, but one question lingered in his mind: could they truly confront this together, or would it tear them apart for good? Tom stepped toward the swings, the moonlight casting an eerie glow on the chains as they shifted in the wind. Each creak reminded him of laughter that felt a world away. He glanced back at Casey, gauging the anxiety etched on her face. This was no small thing, yet here they were, awkwardly united by the very danger he had hoped to escape. "Where do we start?" he asked, trying to focus. The panic was bubbling just beneath the surface. "We can't stay here," Casey said, her voice trembling slightly. "I was being followed. I know it sounds crazy, but we need to get Lily and Rose out of town." "Out of town?" he echoed, incredulous. "You mean to just pack up and leave?" "Yes. At least for a while. My lawyer is a friend. He can help with a safe place." Tom ran a hand through his hair, frustration tightening his features. "You think running will solve this? You think running will keep us safe?" "I know it won't be easy," Casey insisted. "But staying here puts them directly in danger. We have to think about their safety first." Every word struck at Tom's heart. How many times had he promised himself that he would do whatever it took to protect his girls? Now, it felt like that promise was ripping at the seams. "I need time to think," he muttered, guilt gnawing at him. Casey clenched her fists. "Tom, please, I'm begging you, trust me. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm not asking for anything for myself. I'm just thinking of the girls." He sighed, feeling the weight of the world push down on him. Memories entwined with regret surged through his mind, the laughter over bedtime stories, the quiet moments filled with warmth. His daughters, didn't he deserve to be dragged into his and Casey's shadows? "Fine," he relented, his voice almost breaking. "We go to your lawyer. But you have to understand, every move we make has to be for them." "Of course," she replied, her voice firm yet soft, as if hoping to bridge the chasm of distrust that hung heavy in the air. The two began walking back to the parking lot. The stillness of the park felt stifling, each sound creeping through the eerie silence, suffocating them with anxious anticipation. Just as they reached his car, Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. Half expecting another chaotic message, he pulled it out to find a number he didn't recognize. "Do you want to answer that?" Casey asked. Tom shot her a cautious look, but the urgency in her expression pushed him to take a chance. "Yeah, it can't be worse than this," he answered, the weight of uncertainty looming. "Hello?" The voice on the other end sent chills down his spine. "Tom, I know where you are. I have a message for you about Casey." His heart raced as dread spilled through him. "Who is this?" "Someone who cares about your daughters. You need to listen closely." "Where's Casey?" Tom demanded, glancing at her. She had gone pale. "Just outside of town, there's a cabin. You and your girls need to be there by dawn or things will get messy." The line went dead, leaving Tom staring down at his phone, his hands shaking. He was faced with a dizzying swirl of confusion and fear. Visions of worst-case scenarios clouded his mind. "What did they say?" Casey asked, her eyes wide with fear. Tom could only shake his head. "We need to leave. Now." As they got into the car, the weight of what was happening pressed harder against his chest. Fate had thrown them back together, but it was clear that whatever was coming would test their fragile resolve. Driving off into the unknown, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against the clock, one that ticked louder with every passing moment. What awaited them in the darkness, he wasn't sure, but the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. And as they sped down the dark road, a terrifying thought began to take root. Would they emerge from this stronger, or would this be the very thing that tore their lives apart once and for all? The headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the twisted path that led away from the park. Tom gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles pale, his heart pounding like a relentless drum. Everything felt like a blur. Casey's anxious breaths beside him, the faint outline of trees rushing past, and the echo of that mysterious voice still ringing in his ears. "What do you think they meant by things will get messy?" Casey whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Tom could barely meet her gaze. "I don't know, but I'm not willing to find out." He glanced at the clock. Midnight. They had hours until dawn, until whatever truth awaited them at the cabin. Casey leaned back in her seat, her expression a mixture of dread and determination. We have to believe there's a way out of this, Tom. Believe? Right now, I'm just trying to survive the night. He let out a frustrated sigh, gripping the wheel tighter as he took a turn too quickly. They were heading toward a confrontation he couldn't fathom but could feel gathering storm clouds around them. As they drove, she reached for his hand on the gearshift, her fingers tracing his. Whatever happens, we face it together. For them. Tom's heart clenched. For them, yeah? He thought of Lily and Rose, sleeping safely in their beds, blissfully unaware of how twisted the world had become. The road narrowed and the trees thickened, shadows looming closer as the headlights struggled against the oppressive darkness. Every mile brought a chill deeper than the cool night air. What would they find at the cabin? What awaited them? As they approached the designated turnoff, the faint silhouette of the cabin finally came into view. It looked small and unassuming against the sprawling night. Tom parked the car, heart racing as he cut the engine. He turned to look at Casey. Fear danced in her eyes, but beneath the surface, he spotted something unbreakable, a fierce determination. Stay close, he warned as they stepped out into the cool air. The crunch of gravel under their feet felt alarmingly loud in the silence. Just as they made their way toward the door, a sound shattered the quiet. A rustling behind them. Tom whipped around, heart racing, ready to fight whatever threat lurked in the shadows. Tom! Casey whispered urgently. But it was too late. A figure stepped into the moonlight, a man in a dark coat, face obscured by a hood. You shouldn't have come, he said, his voice low and gravelly. Who are you? Tom demanded, sensing the shift in the air, the danger settling over them like a heavy blanket. The man took a step closer, revealing a sharp jaw and piercing eyes that locked onto Tom's. I told you to be here by dawn. Dawn is rapidly approaching. Now you must choose who you protect. Tom's pulse quickened. What are you talking about? Your daughters, Tom. Their safety depends on your decision tonight. Will you truly protect them? Fear consumed him, and dread washed over his thoughts. Try as he might, he couldn't see a way out of this, but he could feel the walls closing in. The heaviness of choice loomed over him, who to trust, who to protect. Let me guess. Tom probed, trying to catch his breath. You know something I don't. The man's grin sent a shiver down Tom's spine. You could say that. But it's not my job to make decisions for you. As Casey's grip tightened on his arm, Tom felt the weight of the moment collapsing around him. Choice was both promise and peril, or perhaps, simply a tragic illusion. With the dawn creeping closer, he had to decide. The man smiled knowingly, as if waiting for Tom's response, while the dawn's first light began to creep across the horizon, a harbinger of change. Time's running out, the man said, his voice echoing like a warning. And as Tom stood frozen, faced with his fears and a world about to fracture, one haunting question lingered. Could any choice truly guard the fragile light of his daughters from the looming dark? The morning sun broke through the clouds as Tom's heart raced wildly in his chest. The man standing before them was not merely a threat but an embodiment of the unknown, a darkness that threatened his newfound family. Who do I protect? He repeated, trying to keep his voice steady. The man's dark-eyed gaze bore into him. Your daughters are in danger because of your choices. You need to pick a side, choose their safety or embrace the past that brought you here. Tom felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He glanced at Casey beside him, her fear palpable. I won't let this define us, he said defiantly. I've worked too hard to create a home for Lily and Rose. With each word, he recalled the laughter they shared, the art corner Maria had set up for them, the fleeting but radiant joy they had reclaimed. This wasn't just about him. It was about the future of his daughters, his reason to fight and to keep hope alive. Suddenly, another rustle came from behind the cabin, and shadows flitted around them. Tom's instincts kicked in. We need to go, now, he urged Casey. But as they turned to leave, the man chuckled darkly. You can run, but the choices won't disappear. Your daughters will still pay the price of your indecision. Tom's pulse quickened as recesses of despair threatened to engulf him. This man was right. Ignoring the past would not shield Lily and Rose from what was coming. The urgency coiled like a tight spring inside him. "What do you know?" he asked, his voice low and cold. "More than you realize," the man replied, stepping closer. "But it's not my place to reveal everything. You must decide if you wish to cut the ties that bind you to me. It's time to decide your loyalty." Tom's head swirled, torn between the chaotic past and the potential of a stabilizing future. As he inhaled sharply, visions raced through his mind, Lily painting, Rose dancing, and most vividly, Maria's laughter illuminating shadows in the home. It occurred to him then that strength doesn't require one to live in fear of what was lost. It blossoms when one embraces all the love that still exists. "Enough!" he barked, feeling the fires of determination ignite within him. "I will protect my daughters with everything I have, and I won't be intimidated into spiraling back into the darkness." The man stepped back, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "So you're choosing to fight for them?" "Yes," Tom affirmed, his heart steadying as newfound conviction surged through him. "I choose to face whatever comes. My family matters most. But understand this, the past doesn't just vanish. It will shape your choices, and you will need allies." "I'll find my allies," Tom asserted, beginning to motion to Casey. "And I won't enlist shadows from a dark past. We'll take back control." A low chuckle escaped the man's lips. "Beware, Tom. Allies can sometimes wear grim masks. Choose wisely." As darkness faded under the sun's piercing light, it ignited a fire in Tom's soul. He turned to Casey, who watched with wide eyes, fear beginning to morph into intrigue. "We need to warn Maria," he stated firmly. "She's been a part of our healing. She deserves to know." Casey nodded, but uncertainty still clung to her voice. "What if they come after her?" "They will," he admitted, but resolve lingered in his stance. "But they won't take her from us. We'll protect her too." They moved toward the car, urgency replacing dread. The figures around the cabin began to retreat, merging into the embrace of shadows. But their resolve strengthened as they got closer to the vehicle together. They would face whatever came next. "Are you sure about this, Tom?" Casey asked, tentative but earnest. "Yes," he replied, placing his hand on her shoulder, the warmth reassuring. "Together we can make it through. It's time to stand against the past and protect the future." With every mile they traveled back, Tom envisioned the lives of Lily and Rose intertwined with light and laughter, a family freed from the echoes of grief. Back at home, Maria was already awake. The sight of her beaming face felt like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. She welcomed them with open arms, and for a brief moment, Tom felt secure again. "Everything's okay," he said, hoping to reassure her, despite shadows lingering at the edge of his mind. As he gathered the girls, laughter erupted again, filling the empty spaces that had long haunted him. Yet he felt the strength of his decisions permeate through him. It was time to be a father who not only guarded his daughters but nurtured a wisdom born from resilience and love. He could prepare them for the chaos ahead by enveloping them in warmth and laughter. With a new belief coursing through his veins, Tom looked at Maria, ready to share the truth with her, ready to face the bumps on their road ahead, together. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, shouting against the darkness, Tom realized that this was not the end of his journey but rather the beginning of a new chapter. They would face challenges, but as a family bound by unwavering love, they would emerge united against the storm. At that moment, he understood, real strength lies not in ignoring fears but in facing them together, hand in hand with those who matter most. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Believe me, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Be the one who spreads hope.